Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the Cobalt 8 from Modal Electronics. It is firmware version 2.0, so it has some upgrades from when it first launched. Some of the criticisms that people had when it first launched was the filter kind of being bland, volume output having some issues, reverb kind of sucked, things like that. Oh, no distortion. For the most part, those things have been fixed. So I think it's worth revisiting the Cobalt 8 if you haven't in a while or haven't considered it since then, because Firmware 2.0 has done some great things. Now I did do a review of the 5S, the Cobalt 5S, and that was a few videos back. For the most part, I really like that synth. The main shortcomings that I feel that it has is in the hardware department. That is completely different when it comes to the Cobalt 8. The Cobalt 8 feels like a fantastic instrument. The keys are the Fatar key bed, so it's a very nice feeling keys to actually play. The actual finish, I think, is metal. I'm not 100% sure about that. I probably should have looked it up, but it's much nicer than the 5S. The 5S definitely has like a plastic type of finish, whereas this guy has a heavy weighted metal type of thing going on. Like I think this weighs about 20 pounds, so significantly heavier, which also means it's not as portable even though it's 37 keys. But I've done some patch writing on it. I really like the workflow and the way things are set up with these synths. And now that the 2.0 features have been added, it really fills things out. It's hard to pass up this synth when just reaching for some bread and butter sounds now. I'll play a couple of patches I made. That's Tough Keys, Analog Vibes. It's kind of similar. Tidal Shift. Edge of the World. Anything else? Sine Vibes. This is specifically using the distortion that's in there now, which I'll show. By the way, I'm going to put these patches and some multi-samples onto the Patreon, so if you want some of those, subscribe to the Patreon. I think it's great what has changed and what they've added. Let's go to Init Patch. So this is a fresh patch, nothing going on. To show the distortion right away, I'm gonna click on Effects 1, and then I'm gonna scroll through. Now there's a few varieties of distortion. I've mostly been going with the soft, but you see Drive M, that means mono. And then there's also Drive S. So you could do soft, Drive S, which is stereo. But that means it takes up 2 effect slots. It's not the most robust type of effect system. The effects are much better than what they were before because you have an upgraded chorus, you have flanger, the reverb is better and all that. But a lot of the stuff that you might want to use sometimes requires 2 effect slots because there's more DPS that's going on in there, specifically the reverb, or in the case of this, a stereo distortion. But let's hear that. So we just have a sine wave going on right now. So let's turn this up all the way. So there's no drive yet. B is what gives you the drive. let's see what the sub stuff does. Empty, empty, empty. So yeah, it's just dry, wet, drive, and then I think this is makeup, yeah. So if you want it louder. Or not. I guess it's reversed? I didn't realize that. So I guess the makeup gain is to reduce. So max out the drive, and then increase makeup gain to reduce the volume. I didn't realize it did that. By the way, there's a lot of shortcuts on this panel. It's definitely not knob per function, but there's quite a bit of stuff that you can get with just holding, like, say, patch, and then say volume. So patch gain will be adjusted with volume, and you can even increase it all the way up to 200. So a patch like this was not possible in the first version of this synth, and it's not possible on the Cobalt 5S either. So I think that's pretty cool. In fact, let's go a step further. Let's give it some release. Maybe drop the sustain a bit. I dig that. Let's actually adjust this. So we're signed currently. Go saw. Maybe give it the super saw. So this currently is using the basic filter that's in there beforehand, which I don't think was a bad filter specifically. I know some people were complaining saying it was super bland. It just didn't jump out with lots of character that you'd expect from a synth. I mean, this is a digital synth, so technically software underneath the hood. That filter is kind of vanilla, you know? I mean, it got the job done. Has this cool morph feature, which I really like that. But the new stuff, so once again, you hold patch, and then you turn the cutoff, and then you get access to the different filter varieties, but then you keep going there to 24. So L, low pass 24 dB pole, or, you know, 4 pole, whatever it is. You can go 18, 12, 6. There's a bunch of other varieties as well that you can scroll through. They added like 30 something. It's a lot. They added a lot of different filter types. But what's great is these have drive now, and I am a huge fan of filter drive. I pretty much always use filter drive when it's available. The morph button turns into drive now. So you turn this, you'll see drive is kicking up now. So turn down, turn it up. Obviously we have a bunch of distortion going on with the current effects. In fact, let's turn down the distortion a bit. Actually, for now, let's turn the distortion all the way off. So it's only drive. So now, that's a lovely filter sound. Turn the drive down. It's there, but it's just a bit bland, you know, just subtly bland. Then you turn up the drive. Get a bit more sponge in there. Love it. Let's actually turn up the depth so we get a little bit of filter. Beautiful. Filter drive, right? I wish the Cobalt 5S had that. I feel like I miss that tonal palette quite a bit when I don't have those drives, the filter drive and like the distortion effects type of stuff. So I really appreciate those, even if it's digital, because again, this is all digital. One of the things about the Peak that I love so much is you have the pre-drive with the filter, and then you also have the distortion afterwards. And I use those all the time. One thing that I did find though, that is probably a bug that needs to be fixed at some point. Can't modulate the stereo effect of the drive. So, for instance, let's add LFO1 to this. So if I click LFO1, it's in assign latch mode, and then if I twist this, give it a bit. Let's turn that off. That's clearly not supposed to do that. So that's completely wet mix of the drive. So let's go back to this, assign. Let's turn this all the way down to 0. Still doing it even assigned to 0. So let's turn this off, go into mod slot 1, clear it, and now it's fixed. It's distorted obviously, but it's fixed. So yeah, that's a bug, you know, there's various bugs. In fact, speaking of bugs, the envelopes tend to click at times depending on the type of algorithm that they're using, which I don't think is intentional, and I can't always recreate it, which also makes me think it's a bug. I know Modal is working on it, obviously, like they've been doing, you know, they're on version 3.0 for the Argon, again, 2.0 for the Cobalt8, and they've added great features. So it's not like they're not supporting their synths. They're definitely working on it. You know, limited hours to be able to fix products and all that when they're probably trying to work on new stuff as well. So, but yeah, back to this patch. Delicious distortion going on right there. Let's turn down the drive a bit. Actually blend in the original. And then drop the filter. I like that sound when it's all scratchy like that. Something I haven't talked about yet, that's another great feature with the 2.0, vintage mode. One problem with the Cobalt, both the 5S and the 8 here, and I think the Argon as well, is that there's only 8 mod slots. For me, I think that's too little. I think there should have been at least 16 or higher. Reason is, you might just throw in a couple LFOs, slightly adjusting things to give you a vintage vibe. When you only have 8 slots, like those get taken up so quick. Luckily, the vintage parameter adds in some variations on there already, so you don't have to waste modulation slots for that. So how to do that? You hold patch once again, and then you go over to the mix, and then you start twisting it, you start turning up vintage. Now all the way, it's too much. It's out of tune now. It's like, bro, fix your keyboard. But what I like to do is probably bring it around, maybe around here, 40. That's really nice. Let's turn off the distortion for now. Bring up the filter. Sounds nice, right? Another thing they added was the oscillators. They have the ability to run free, so they're not going to get resynced every time you hit a key. I'm in the wrong menu. You have to go to the oscillator menu. See, see there's oscillator 1, oscillator 2, and then oscillator menu. And then free run, you can turn that to on. So now the oscillators won't re-trigger the position based on when you play the keys. They will always be constantly running, like more like an actual voltage controlled oscillator. Off. And then on. Now it's subtle, but what you can hear is that the beginning attack is not the same with the free run on. So again, it's subtle, but like that beginning attack, it's in a different position. So if your ears are really listening for it, you can pick up that it's just subtly off from where it was before. A little more smoother. Obviously you still have drift that you can put in there. So you have drift and vintage going on at the same time. Let's actually assign LFO1 to the oscillator 1A1 value. Beautiful. LFO1. And I'm going to make this free run as well. All right, let's go back to the effects. So they added a better reverb. So let's go effects slot number 2 and roll it on over to Reverb V2. It says I can't have it. Oh, right, because my distortion is taking up 2 slots. Already forgot. So here's part of the limitation right now with the effects. What they've added is obviously really good, but limitations involved right here. So let's take off our drive here. Let's get rid of it. And now if we go to effects slot number 3, reverb 2. So it has a plus right there, which means it takes up 2 slots. So same thing. Let's turn up the mix. Has this like ringing effect. So I'm actually going to crank the time and turn it down just a little bit because I don't know if it goes infinite. I'll turn down the brightness. Now I'm going to hit shift for the alternate values. So we got high pass. Let's turn this up a bit because I don't want too much bass in there. And then the modulation, I like modulation up. Pre-delay, add a little bit of that as well. Now. Turn down the dry wet. It's really interesting how it swells like that. I wonder if it's because the patch gain is up. Yeah. Interesting. It's definitely a better reverb. Personally though, I don't know if it's worth losing the 2 slots, especially if you want that distortion. And also considering that you could do like the chorus in there. So let's actually take off the reverb. If you're in the studio, clearly you're going to use reverbs that are in your computer or your DAW, right? Or maybe you have a favorite pedal or something like that. Because I actually do think it's worth hooking up a pedal to this to free up the slots that would normally be taken up with reverb. A pedal that is dedicated to reverb is going to be better, obviously. Now I'm going to go mono drive. I'm going to go soft on here. I'm going to turn up the mix here, do a little bit of drive. Yeah, a little bit of bite. Now we're going to go to effects 2. And we're going to get chorus V2. Turn this up. I'm going to turn it up all the way. Nice busted sound. Needs a little bit of delay now. So let's grab the ping pong delay. Turn down the drive, the filter. Turn the resonance up. Want more time, feedback. Oh wait, does this go? Here we go. Quarter notes. Turn up the feedback. Feedback down a bit. See these, let's see, low pass, yeah, we'll shave off some top, shave off some bottom, width reduce, just a little bit. Okay. Okay, one thing I need to do that I haven't set up yet is put in aftertouch for the pressure here. Now, in the modulation slots, there is some stuff that's pre-routed. So for instance, if you go, if you look through this stuff, you have mod slot 1 through 8, and then you also have mod, which is generic pre-routed mod sources on there, or mod connections. So for instance, the note to the cutoff. So if you want the higher you play, the cutoff to move up or lower, you know, you can go reverse too, yeah. You could do that automatically without having to take up a mod slot, which I appreciate. Then you also have the joystick LFO1 depth that can increase that, which is nice. I don't use that as much, honestly. Then aftertouch for the cutoff. Let's crank this up. I do find I kind of have to dig a little harder than I prefer for the aftertouch on this, but the keyboard bed feels so good that I can't really complain. Let's turn this down just a skosh. Also got velocity and the amp envelope. Let's actually crank this so we have some dynamics here. This is obviously another one that you want pretty much pre-routed all the time. So your velocity affects how much volume you get from the amplitude for the amp engine, the VCA. Maybe a little too much. Cool, now let's take LFO2, assign it to the filter cutoff. Maybe about that much or so. Let's turn down the rate as well. So nice and slow. I appreciate that there's 3 LFOs in this. And a modulation envelope as well. So far, I've only been using one oscillator, by the way. You know, I could introduce a different oscillator. Or oscillator number 2, which is still going through all the stuff. By the way this is routed, so you have these 2 algorithmic oscillators that basically mimic architectures that would take a lot more programming to make happen in a traditional synth. So for instance, this the first oscillator that I have right now is like super saw and moving through, or it's moving through like virtual analog shapes, but it has a super, you know, like a unison detune type of thing going on. So it's like simulating more oscillators than are actually in, or than what's on the front panel of the Cobalt here. So pretty cool when you think of it that way. And then you can get more complex stuff with like frequency modulation and ring modulation, all that stuff. It is like 40 something or like 30 something algorithms, so a lot to take in, and the video would end up being a couple hours if I went through each one detailed, so I'm not going to do that, obviously. But you should know that to get some like traditional sounds that involve some more programming, it's actually pretty fast with the algorithm type of stuff. It's almost like the Mini Freak. Okay, so this is oscillator 2 now of the same patch that we're working on. We can actually change the algorithm. So there's spread square. If I adjust A2, actually I need to go wait. And what's great is these parameters can easily be modulated. So you just, you know, throw them around. So I just held the mod envelope button, and now I'm going to go to A2. I'm going to crank this. Like maybe goes up to 64, so let's split the difference. maybe go 40, something like that. I'm gonna hit the mod button again, so it's out of the assign, so I don't accidentally twist a knob and suddenly assign that when I didn't want to. This is the third modulation slot. So let's add some attack, sustain. We'll just drop the sustain all the way, so it'll be like attack and decay, essentially. So let's just hear the oscillator. So let's shorten the time on that. I actually think I want more too, so I'm going to go to mod slot 3 and increase the depth all the way. So our modulation envelope is pushing into the A2 value of oscillator 2 and adding more of the detune variable in there. So let's bring back the first oscillator. Cool. Let's use the joystick now. So one thing that I really like is having the option of the negative value and the positive value of the joystick, because you can assign those to essentially two different things. So that's pretty cool. The problem is, once I get going with assignments of the joystick, I quickly run out of mod slots, and we're already down 3, right? So we have 5 mod slots available now for the joystick. Now, it would be a problem if I plan on only doing one value per polarity, but I don't. I almost always add multiple things to a joystick or a mod wheel. So let's, I guess, just fill it up, right? So what you do is you hold or press shift, and then you can go positive Y, which is right here. Press that. So let's brighten it up. You know, add a little of this. So like that. The other thing would be maybe more resonance and drive. Problem is that's 3 slots already. Like, we're not going to have the negative at whatever. Let's do it. Let's add some resonance. Okay. And then crank the drive. Now, what I'd additionally like to do is have more delay. So we are going to increase the ping pong amount. And now we have 1 slot left. Oh well. What should we do with it? Let's see, because we have a third LFO that we haven't touched yet. Could do something with the mix. Actually, what I really like to do for performance is pull back the mod or the negative Y. So we should do that, but I'm not sure. I could just do the cutoff. It's the kind of the typical thing here. Drop the cutoff. Yeah, that works. And that's all the mod slots. So you can't go any further. I mean, we could adjust some of the parameters, but yeah, that is honestly my main criticism of both the 5S and the Cobalt 8, and I'm sure the Argon as well, because there's like, you have 3 LFOs, you got this joystick, like I can't do anything with the negative X, or I can't do anything with the X axis on there. I could barely do anything with the negative Y. If I want to add anything else, I'm like screwed, you know? There's no option. So I really feel like it needs another bank of mod slots, like 16 at least, especially with it being a digital synth. So I don't get that. But that complaint aside, I really think that this is an amazing keyboard. And if you want like a really solid feeling MIDI controller, this is an option right here, because you can map any of these controls to your DAW as well. So you can, you know, like, in fact, I bought that, the Cherry Audio, the GX80, I think is what it's called. And then I started mapping the cutoff frequency to this knob while I was controlling it in the software. Great controller. I mean, if you get the X version where you have 49 keys, like that's a really nice big keyboard that's full-sized. With a great synth engine behind it, all that stuff. So I think that's a worthy consideration. And it's also not like crazy expensive. They're not cheap by any means, but you're not breaking $1,000 or more. So in terms of the audio world, pretty affordable, to be honest. But yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll save this patch and I'll put it up on the Patreon as well. So if you want these patches and maybe some multi-samples, they will be available on the Patreon. And if you enjoyed the video, a like, subscribe would be awesome. Also, if you want to support the channel even further, you can use our affiliate links. So if you're interested in purchasing a Cobalt, any of the variety of it, like a module or a 5S or whatever, if you use our affiliate links, then it directly supports the channel at no additional cost for you. And our choice is to use Zounds because that's where we get our gear. So you can do that. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Deuces.